The night she lost the bet, rain soaked the city like a quiet punishment, and Lily Harper stood under a flickering streetlight realizing that one careless laugh, one reckless promise, had just unraveled everything she thought she knew about her life. She had never believed in fate, never believed that a single decision could reroute an entire future, but as she clutched her phone and reread the message confirming her loss, her chest tightened with a fear she couldn't name. She was 27, stubbornly independent, and convinced she had everything under control. And now, because of a stupid bet she never thought she'd lose, she was being forced to move into the home of a single father she barely knew, a man carrying responsibilities heavier than anything she had ever faced. Neither of them expected what came next, and neither of them was ready for how deeply their lives were about to collide. Before the story pulls you any deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when people least expect them, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Lily's life before that night was loud and fast, full of late evenings, sarcastic confidence, and a carefully built emotional armor. She worked in digital marketing, thrived on competition, and believed vulnerability was a weakness she couldn't afford. The bet itself had been a joke among friends, something about proving she could handle anything life threw at her. The terms were ridiculous, almost laughable, until they weren't. She had mocked the idea of living with a single dad, assuming it would never happen. But when the results came in, laughter turned into dread, and pride trapped her into honoring her word. Backing out would mean admitting fear, and Lily Harper did not admit fear. The house she moved into sat at the edge of a quiet neighborhood, where trees leaned protectively over cracked sidewalks and time seemed slower, heavier. Mark Reynolds, the single father, was nothing like the image Lily had mocked in her head. He was 35, worn down in the way only grief and responsibility could wear a person down, with tired eyes that had seen too many sleepless nights. His wife had passed away 4 years earlier, leaving him to raise his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, alone. The house carried echoes of a life once full, family photos still lining the walls, laughter fossilized in frames. Lily felt like an intruder the moment she stepped inside, her suitcase thudding against the floor like a reminder that she didn't belong. Living there was uncomfortable from the start. Lily wasn't used to quiet mornings filled with the smell of burnt toast and the sound of cartoon music drifting from the living room. She wasn't used to routines dictated by school schedules, bedtime rituals, and packed lunches. Mark wasn't used to someone like Lily either, someone sharp-edged and restless, someone who stayed up late scrolling on her phone while the house slept, someone who looked at responsibility like a temporary inconvenience. They existed in the same space like strangers sharing borrowed air, polite but distant, both counting the days until the bet would end, but life has a way of ignoring timelines. Slowly, cracks began to show. Lily noticed how Mark moved through the house like a man carrying invisible weight, how he never sat down unless Emma was settled, how exhaustion clung to him even when he smiled. She saw the unopened bills stacked neatly on the counter, the way he double-checked locks at night, the quiet panic in his eyes when Emma coughed even once. Mark noticed Lily's walls too, the way she flinched at sudden tenderness, how she avoided calls from her own family, how laughter sometimes sounded forced, like a shield. Neither spoke about these things, but they felt them, the unspoken understanding growing heavier with each passing day. The turning point came unexpectedly, on an ordinary afternoon that refused to stay ordinary. Emma fell sick with a high fever while Mark was stuck at work, unreachable, buried in a shift he couldn't leave without risking his job. Lily found herself alone with a frightened child whose small body burned with heat, whose eyes searched for reassurance Lily didn't feel qualified to give. Panic rose fast, but something deeper pushed it down. She stayed. She held cold cloths, read stories she barely remembered, whispered comfort she didn't know she had. Hours passed in a blur of worry and responsibility, and when Mark finally rushed home, fear etched into his face. He found his daughter asleep and Lily sitting beside her, exhausted, changed. From that moment, something softened. Trust crept in quietly, without announcement. Lily began helping with homework, not because she had to, but because it felt right. She learned Emma's favorite meals, learned how to braid hair clumsily, learned that love didn't always arrive loud and dramatic. Mark began opening up in small ways, sharing stories of his wife, of dreams he'd buried under survival. The house felt warmer, fuller, like it was breathing again. Lily realized she hadn't checked the calendar in weeks. The bet no longer felt like a sentence. It felt like a doorway. Still, growth rarely comes without pain. Lily was forced to confront her own loneliness, the emptiness she'd masked with ambition and noise. Watching Mark fight every day for his daughter stirred something she had avoided all her life, the desire to belong, to matter beyond success. Mark, in turn, struggled with guilt, with the fear of letting someone close again, terrified of loss repeating itself. There were nights heavy with silence, moments where old habits threatened to resurface, where Lily considered running, where Mark questioned whether stability could survive vulnerability. The day the bet officially ended arrived quietly, without celebration. Lily stood in her room, suitcase open once more, heart heavier than it had been the day she arrived. The house felt different now, alive with shared memories, with unspoken bonds. Leaving felt like tearing something fragile. She realized then that the bet had stopped mattering a long time ago. What mattered was the family she hadn't planned on, the love that had grown in the most unexpected soil. In the end, Lily didn't leave. Not because of obligation, not because of a lost bet, but because she chose to stay. She chose the slow mornings, the responsibility, the imperfect, beautiful chaos. Mark learned that healing didn't mean forgetting, and Emma learned that families can be built in more ways than one. What began as a punishment became a promise, a second chance neither of them knew they needed. If this story stirred something inside you, if it reminded you that life can change through the smallest decisions and the bravest stays, please take a moment now to like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps these stories reach hearts that need them. And before the final moment fades, leave a comment telling us what part of this story touched you the most, because your words matter more than you know. Sometimes, the bets we lose are the ones that save us, and sometimes, the homes we never planned to enter become the places where we finally learn how to live.